This video is brought to you by my generous backers over on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel and get cool perks like access to the Discord, seeing the videos a week before anyone else, or an entire video dedication, then feel free to check out my Patreon. The link's in the description below. This video is dedicated to Outlaw. Outlaw, thank you for your continued support. Well, I was so annoyed with myself at the way I performed at the last Jeleva gameplay that I'm deciding to play another one again straight away. Jeleva Nephalias Scourge versus Krenko Mob Boss, Urza, Titan of Nature's Wrath, and Urza, Lord High Artificer. We've got a bunch of mana and pretty much nothing else to do with it. We could go for Mystical Tutor onto a wheel, so yeah, I probably will do that. And the game is starting out from Mooney Boy, a Ley Line of Anticipation, a patron of the channel, playing Urza, Titan of Nature's Wrath. And then we've got Outlaw, another patron of the channel, playing Urza. This is supposed to be a power level 7 game, so hopefully this is just some kind of fun build of Urza. And then we've got an internet random playing Krenko Mob Boss. Just getting out a bunch of lands on turn 1 seemingly. We draw into the Swarm Intelligence again. Hopefully it's not like last game where we just drew into a bunch of expensive stuff. Let's go for the Steam Vents with Arid Mesa. That sets us up for Mystical Tutor next turn, and we could go in for Wheel of Fortune if we want to. But we'll see what our opponents do first. Okay, Grim Monolith comes down. That doesn't fill me with hope that this is power level 7, but can't judge it based on rocks alone. We've got a Mana Crypt in hand after all. Alright, we get into another land. I think we just play out tap lands for now. As much as I want to go for a Braid onto that Grim Monolith. Oh, I have to go Braid onto the Grim Monolith, don't I? I can't just allow the Urza to come down. And if we're going for a wheel at some point anyway, then we don't mind emptying our hand. And at instant speed, Mooney is going in for Tireless Tracker, and they can do that because of the Ley Line of Anticipation. Outlaw just has 3 mana held up, and then it's 3 damage onto Krenko. Oh dear, a Blood Moon. Yeah, so we've got Urza over here, Blood Moon over here. Yeah, I don't really think much of that. We can get an answer with Mystical Tutor at least. Oh yeah, and then at instant speed, Mooney is going to fix their mana with the Sky Shroud Claim before they can't tap anything for green. Oh, and we get into a basic anyway, that's lucky, so we just need a black basic at this point. Let's go for the Island. And then we can't go Mana Crypt into our commander, unfortunately. I think we just slow roll it out and try our best to not look like a threat. See if we can get some removal out of players' hands. Then down comes Urza with no artifacts in play. And Urza is going to crack a clue token in response, which puts a plus counter on the Tireless Tracker. And this time the Tireless Tracker is coming in at us. So that's 4 points of damage. And there he is, Krenko Mob Boss. So we could go for something off of the Mystical Tutor, but I think, yeah, slow rolling it out. This is 7, so we'll have 4, 5, 6. We can go for Swarm Intelligence next turn. And like I said, try our best to not look like a threat. And like I also said, we're likely to just draw into all of our big stuff and none of our rocks and signets, stuff like that. Yeah, so we just play that and pass the turn over. Now it is a Windfall, so regretting not getting down the Mana Crypt. Let's go for Mystical Tutor in response to that. We might as well draw into something that we know we're going to like. Rampaging Baloth's coming down at instant speed from Mooney. And a Mental Misstep. Where is that coming from? Mental Misstep coming from Mooney as well, I assume. No, Mental Misstep came from Outlaw. So out comes the Rampaging Baloths. We do not get our shooter. We might get into a basic swamp at least, but I think we've only got 2 or 3 of them in the deck. Well, we get into another basic. It's not black, unfortunately. We can go for Vandal Blast if we need to. We've got Sol Rings, so we've got plenty of ramp, plenty of mana, but we just don't have the colours we need. Then Gataxian Probe is going to look at Mooney's hand. Oh, we didn't look at what people discarded, actually. There was a Flash, a Cyclonic Rift, Narset, Part of the Veils. Yeah, Flash in green. So hopefully they're not playing Flash Hulk. It's actually a C-EDH level combo, so wouldn't expect to see that in a power level 7 game. And then there was Brainstorm, some lands, Spellskite, Perforos, Shatterstorm, Tuk Tuk, Arms Dealer, and Grenzo. Yeah, that looks like much more of a power level 7 list to me. Then there's 4 points of damage going in at Outlaw, and 6 points of trample damage going in towards Krenko. Coat of Arms coming out now. I would think they would hold on to that for a Hail Mary. But apparently they just want to get it going right away. And they can obviously tap their Krenko, which will only bring out 1 Goblin. Worse fears, yeah. Still drawing into the big stuff. Let's drop an island just in case we want double blue off of something. And we'll get down the Saw Ring before we wheel it away. And we can also go in for that Opt as well. I don't particularly care about doing it on my opponent's turn. Rite of Replication. We could go for something with that, maybe. And I'm going to hold on to the Vandal Blast because something tells me that we're not going to be doing anything next turn either. So if more artifacts come down, especially from Urza, then we can blow them up. Witching Well coming down, that will get wrapped up in Vandal Blast. You scry 2 when it enters, and then for 4 and sack you draw a couple of cards. And that obviously taps for mana whilst Urza is in play. Following things up with a Ponder. With the Witching Well, they scried 1 card on top and 1 on the bottom. And here we go, there's the second Narset that we've seen. And off of the Narset, they go for Copy Artifact. There was an Erratic Portal on top for a second there. I think they drew a couple of cards with the clues. And now it is Azusa, Lost But Seeking, which they can draw into off of the clue. Goes very nicely with Oracle of Muldaya. And bear in mind that the beasts are being buffed by the Coat of Arms. That's going in at Narset. They should just swing everything in at Narset, I would think. No, they're working it out properly, so it looks like this damage is going over at Krenko. 2 creatures swinging in at Narset. They do have the trample, so that'll probably kill off Narset. And then 6 damage onto us. Cracking a clue token, going after that Azusa. Second Goblin of the game, the Goblin Pile Driver comes down, and that is protection from blue, which could be relevant against us. As well as Urza, they do have the construct in play at least. Followed by Mogcatcher. 3 tap, search your library for a goblin and put it onto the battlefield. Then they tap down the Krenko and get a bunch of 6/6 goblins into play. Another land for us that we can't do anything with. I think we just have to go for the Rite of Replication. Annoyingly, had I played out the Mana Crypt and not worried about getting bolted left, right and centre, with nothing to do with the mana, then we could have gone for a kicked Rite of Replication and got on a whole bunch of Rampaging Baloths into play. Well, not to worry. Maybe we could go after the Tireless Tracker actually and actually draw some cards, get us closer to getting something else going. I think that's a better idea actually. Hopefully people will just continue to not swing in at us. And I think just so there's not as much damage in play, I think I have to go for a 1 mana Vandal Blast onto Coat of Arms. Much as I don't want to, I think that needs to happen. Alright, Force of Will coming from Outlaw. Followed by Narset's Reversal, going on to said Force of Will. So it looks as though Mooney doesn't want the coat of arms around either. Yeah, I don't know why Outlaw would want the coat of arms in play, to be honest. Unless they plan on littering the board with a bunch of fairies or thopters or something. And then it looks like there's even more counter magic in hand over here. I think I need to... It's been a very counter magic heavy day today. I think I need to run some games where counter magic is banned just for the fun of it. Someone pointed out in the comments section recently that... Oh, it's not the... The Narset's Reversal is copying the Vandal Blast. I thought they were... Oh well. Yeah, they're keeping the same target, alright. I thought they were countering the Force of Will. At least this way we get to keep the Vandal Blast in hand, so I actually prefer that. But yeah, someone pointed out in the comments section a while ago that it was a fun game that they saw in multiplayer because there was no blue. And yeah, it is fun to have a break from blue every now and then. So I think running a game where there's no counter magic or even no blue allowed would be a good idea. Just for the sheer fun of it, so you can all let me know what you think of that idea anyway. Goblin Electromancer, well at least we can cast it. Arkham's Astrolabe coming down for Urza. And now Recurring Insight being cast, and they're targeting us with that because we've got 5 cards in hand. They get into their Mana Crypt, they've got 6 cards in hand now. Followed by a Sol Ring as well. And then a Time Spiral. This might get us into some black mana. Selvala coming down at instant speed in response to that, thanks to the Ley Line. And we didn't see all the other cards that were supposed to be revealed off the top with Oracle, so it's just a Boro. We know that they've... I think you shuffle... Yeah, you shuffle the graveyard into the library, so they did not necessarily draw into the Wood Elves there. But we do get into the elusive swamp that we needed. Fortunately, we've got double black, double red. Oh, we can go double red thanks to the Blood Moon, can't we? Ponder could get us into another black mana, maybe. I imagine it's too little too late for us, though. And then following things up with Ethereum Sculptor, they went for Muddle the Mixture for something. Let's have a look. Oh, they went for Muddle the Mixture onto Ethereum Sculptor. And Altar of Dementia came down at the end of the turn there for Mooney. And they've got plenty of power in play to mill some cards. Followed by Sylvan Safekeeper. Oh, and they've gotten down Mirage Mirror as well. I didn't notice that. That would be good as a copy of the Rampaging Baloths. And then straight into combat, the Rampaging Baloths and a token going in at Outlaw. We are getting a token. And the Krenko player is getting one as well. And Tireless Tracker going in at Krenko as well. And now, in response to blocks, the Mirage Mirror is becoming a copy of Urza. And Urza has, interestingly, blocked the Rampaging Baloth. So Urza goes down there. And the problem is, Urza, with a bunch of clue tokens in play, means a bunch of blue mana. Then Mooney went in for a Lightning Greaves, and that went on to Selvala to protect that. That will tap for a lot of mana. Now another Mana Crypt comes down, and this time it's for the Krenko player. Goblin Matron, I think that puts it straight into the hand. Well, that's not too frightening of all the things you can get with a Goblin Tutor, Mog War Marshal, and playing the Mog War Marshal straight away. Then going in for another Tutor, this time with the Mog Catcher. And it is Goblin Assassin. When it or another goblin enters, each player flips a coin. Each player whose coin comes up tails sacrifices a creature. So we might have to get rid of our only creature here, and our only means of card draw. Cyclonic Rift. So that gives us back our mana. Can we get into a counterspell for that Blood Moon before it comes back down is the question. I've never been as happy to see a Cyclonic Rift, to be honest. They get their Mana Crypt straight back down because they're probably worried about wheels. Oh, no need. They decide to get rid of the Blood Moon, so we can just go on to playing as we normally would. It only took us 7 turns to get out of it. That's ironic. We would have gotten into negate to counter it anyway. Well, we definitely play a swamp. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is Garrick's Wake, but we won't be able to go after that if there's counter magic over here, although they only have 2 cards left in hand. Do we go for that? Yeah, because if we go for Jeleva and we put something scary under that, they're just going to swing everything in at us. Yeah, we'll just grab ourselves the in Garrick's Wake. And if it gets countered, then so be it. Well, it goes through. They do have... Well, it goes through. They've got priority held up. And if the Force of Will over here hadn't been used on our Vandal Blast, then they could have backed us up by countering their counter. But perhaps they don't have one in hand. I doubt they would have let that occur if they did. So now we're back to a level playing field, kind of. Outlaw going to target the Krenko player with the recurring insight, so going up to 18 cards in hand. And that came about with rebound. Rebuilding the board again. Really fishing for stuff. Doesn't have an unlimited hand size, but is still drawing cards. Going up to 17 in hand once the Astrolabe enters. Followed by Graph Digger's Cage. I think that's just creatures. Yeah, I don't care about that. We do want to cast instants and sorceries out of the bin. Don't care about creatures as much. Trail of Evidence. We'll get them a bunch of Investigate tokens. There's a Mystic Remora. Transmute Artifact. Wow, this is power level 7, don't forget. Looks like a very, very low curve that Outlaw's brought. Then Isochron Scepter is coming down, and I don't know if they've got the combo in hand. They put underneath it a delay, and they do not currently have the mana to activate that. Static Orb. As long as Static Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 2 permanents during the untap step. Then he played the Witching Well also. Yeah, so there is Stax type effects in the deck then. As long as Static Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 2 permanents during the untap steps. So it's just more sitting around watching people play by the looks of it. After the Stax players come down, it's over to Mooney's turn, who has played Thrasios and immediately put Lightning Greaves on there. Reliquary Tower was on top, I think. Or it was on top at one point. We saw it with the Oracle of Muldiah. Krenko just comes down for the Krenko player. What can we do here? We've got Ponder. I mean, it's just Ponder, isn't it, really? So we'll go Command Tower and the Sol Ring. And then we've got Mystic Confluence that we can't do anything with. We could hold up Dualcaster Mage, I suppose. I mean, I don't see what we can get with Ponder, to be honest. So we'll probably best just untapping and holding on to the mana. Been a very long time since I've played such a... Well, I say play, I haven't done a whole lot of playing. But, yeah, it's been a long time since I've played such a solitaire game. Yeah, I dare say Outlaw has been telling us pork pies here. Said he didn't know if he had Stax in the deck. Winter Orb is certainly in the deck along with Static Orb, and I dare say that that's what the entire deck was built around, so yeah, I'm not sure I believe you there, Outlaw, sorry. Decided not to negate it because having Winter Orb and Static Orb in play, I mean, we pretty much just want to get into the Vandal Blast again. I don't think it's been exiled, I'm hoping it hasn't now. No, it's been shuffled back in by a wheel. So, yeah, I don't really see the point in countering the Winter Orb when we've already got a Static Orb to contend with. At least we'd be able to untap 2 permanents, I suppose. Mog War Marshal coming down for Krenko again. Pretty much the only thing they can do. And they can tap down their Krenko, so they can start to develop a Goblin army over the next few turns. It just relies on whether or not Outlaw can actually do something about an army, considering the fact that they're probably going to be getting into lots of bounce effects and stuff like that. But they are affected by their own Winter Orb and Static Orb at the moment. Oh, and that's really good. Then going for Obelisk of Erd, which they can cast with Convoke, so they don't need to be able to untap everything, apparently. Still need a few turns, though, because they'll only be able to untap Krenko and a land, maybe. But they've got a lot of creatures now. Over the next few turns, they could probably swing in and take out Outlaw. Now, we will untap. I don't know. We'll go for the Swamp. No, we're a few mana away from that. Do we just tap out and go for Jeleva and hope that it stays in play? Yeah, we're doing nothing else, and we've done nothing this whole game. I was hoping this would be a better game than the last one, but at least we got to show off a little bit of what I want to do with Jeleva. Okay, we got rid of a mana drain, that's good. There's an Abrade, also good. We can get rid of one of the Stax things with that. Vandal Blast. Can we overload Vandal Blast? It's additional costs that we can play. We'd need to swing in with Jeleva twice. One for the Abrade and one for the Vandal Blast. So it'll take us a couple of turns, but we can remove the Stax here. If Outlaw bounces our Jeleva, then, well, it's down to someone else, basically. Then the Great Henge coming down for Mooney. Probably in an attempt to generate more mana on the untaps. This taps for 2, and this taps for 2 as well. They can only untap one land a turn. And then a Boro, I think they just bounced a Boro back to their hand. And obviously this is card draw as well whenever they play a creature. Mana Crypt and Krenko being untapped. So you would think there'd be only one thing to do here. Tap Krenko and pass the turn. And then hope to get a bunch of damage off on Outlaw next turn. They got themselves into a mountain, so playing that and tapping down the Mana Crypt gets them into the Goblin Matron. And now they can go for Skirk Prospector. That's a really good one. So that means that they're not affected by the Stax, which might mean that they want to take the two of us out before they take out the Stax player. Anyway, we'll go for Command Tower, and I think the Sol Ring. There's a Scroll Rack, which is good when we want to recast Jeleva. Let's go Prismatic Vista, and probably just hold up the Dualcaster Mage again. Anyway, we're certainly going to swing in at Outlaw, and that will allow us to cast something. And we can only choose one thing with the Vandal Blast. Let's go for... Just in case people want to untap more than one land, we'll go after Winter Orb. So we obviously deal 1 point of commander damage to our opponent, which is probably negligible. And we'll just continue to hold up the mana. It's Negate and Dualcaster Mage I'm looking at the moment. But we might not end up going for either of those and just untap a couple of lands at the beginning of the turn. We've also got to remember that there is a delay here under the Icecron Scepter. Then a Dig Through Time comes out from Outlaw. And I don't know if they had much in the graveyard, but they've exiled a bunch of stuff somehow anyway. Yeah, I imagine all this was in the graveyard. Then it's a Gilded Drake. Gilded Drake probably takes our commander to take us off of the Abrade. Nope, they're actually taking the Krenko, surprisingly. A Clue token being cracked at the end of the turn. 3 cards in hand, they'll draw a card at the beginning of their turn, of course. Then they play a Boro and decide to pass the turn. Now then, are we going to have to swing in at Outlaw to take out the Static Orb? Or is the Goblin player going to take them out? They untap Mana Crypt and a Mountain again. I mean, I think they have to go in at Outlaw, don't they? Because they've got control of their commander. Legion Loyalist, that's a hasty Goblin. And it makes tokens unblockable, I think, or can't be blocked by tokens. When at least 2 other creatures attack with it. Creatures you control gain first strike and trample and can't be blocked by tokens. Alright, so it doesn't make them unblockable. And yeah, they've just turned everything sideways in an Outlaw, so finally, after 11 long turns and I think 1.5, 2 hours, we can actually try and get the game underway. So there we go, getting rid of the Stax player, which frees us up to swing in with Jeleva and a Terminate. Although, if we're just going to wipe the board, we could go for the Abrade onto here, maybe. Yeah, anyway. And a Cavern of Souls for us, so we're doing alright on the land front. We haven't gotten into any of our rocks apart from Soul Ring, unfortunately. So let's swing in with Jeleva. And we'll put Abrade onto the Great Henge. Just because it's card draw for our opponent, I'd rather they put mana into the card draw if they're going to draw anything. They floated 2 mana from the Great Henge and decided to put it into a clue token, so they go up to 4 cards. Then let's get out this Cavern of Souls. And we'll name Wizard with that. In fact, probably should have waited until after the Decree of Pain and gone down a Reliquary Tower if we were going to draw into that. But no worries, we could go Volcanic Vision. Yeah, Volcanic Vision onto Vandal Blast will work. Yeah, that'll work nicely, assuming there's no counter magic over here. So let's go for that. Attempting to return the Vandal Blast to hand will deal 1 damage to everything. And then if we manage to take out the Obelisk, that will remove the 2/2 buff and kill off all the 3/3 goblins. They'll keep their Krenko in play though. And then hopefully the Overload on this will go through. And it does, that's really good. So we deal with the Goblin Army. We might as well ponder because there's nothing else for us to do. Fact or Fiction, Demonic Tutor and Bedevil. We'll go Bedevil, Fact and Demonic Tutor. We can draw into that next turn. Oh no, we'll draw into it now and draw into Fact or Fiction next turn, won't we? And I'm pretty sure that that's the first time that's come down this game. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. Yeah, only 3 mana, so they're going to have to sacrifice it here. See if it goes into the bin or into the command zone. It goes into the graveyard. The Thrasios comes in at us. That is 1 point of damage. Followed by a Deadeye Navigator. Whenever this enters the battlefield or attacks, you gain 3 life and draw a card and can put a land into play. And when it enters, you sack it unless it escaped. So they could stack the triggers so that they don't have to sacrifice it, as long as they blink it in time. But at the end of them blinking stuff out, it will have to be sacrificed and put back into the bin, or in the command zone. Anyway, back round to Krenko's turn, with 5 cards in hand. They get down the Goblin Pile Driver, that was probably not back to their hand as part of a rift, maybe this one. My brain's kind of switched off this game, so I don't know who cast what and what got bounced when and all the rest of it. We knew about the Skirk Prospector, that was a means of getting round the Winter Orb and the like. And then this has named dragons, so... Oh, that's surprising. I usually go for Khans with this. I don't think I've ever seen anyone go for dragons. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to any target, so they might be looking to combo off with that. Yeah, it is any target, so I suppose that makes sense. They could get rid of some stuff here, or maybe our Jeleva. I don't know which side of the field Krenko is more worried about. I'd be more worried about Uro personally, but they don't know what's in our hand after all. Oh, a Goblin Bombardment as well, so 2 sack outlets. We draw into that Fact or Fiction. Can we go Decree of Pain? We don't really care about Jeleva at the moment. That would leave us with 4 mana available. Yeah, I think we have to go for Decree of Pain at this point. They might have another counter spell in hand. Do we go for Mystic Confluence or Negate here? Yeah, we're going to draw a bunch of cards anyway if this goes through, so we'll save the Mystic Confluence and we'll go for Negate. And even if they do have a counter spell, we can go Dual Caster onto Negate, onto the Narset's Reversal. In response, the Goblin player is going to start sacrificing things and dealing damage to us as punishment for clearing the board, so we're not going to draw as many cards off of Decree of Pain. So we go down to 6. And the negate, I assume, will resolve onto the Narset's reversal. And I don't know. This counts as destroyed, not death, so I don't know if it counts towards the commanders or not anyway. Let's see if we draw 2 cards, or 3, or 4. They're going for a flicker on Uro, and that comes back down immediately, so it'll still get wrapped up in the decree, but they might just put it back into the bin here. Yeah, it goes into the bin, so we only draw 3 cards here, I think. Yeah, so it does count on commanders going back into the command zone because it was still destroyed. We get Riptide Laboratory. So, I think we go Scroll Rack. We can put Worst Fears on top and replay Jeleva next turn and maybe go for a tutor in for some kind of haste. Just to maximise the mana, we'll go for the Demonic Tutor now, and I'll get us a Hanweir Battlements. Uro comes down again. They exile a bunch more stuff in order to do it, including the Selvala, Sylvan Safekeeper. Can't actually see what they've exiled for some reason. There we go. The Altar of Dementia and Narset's Reversal is gone. Then they strip mine our Ancient Tomb. That might actually affect us next turn. We want to go for 6 mana into Jeleva, and then tap down a land into Hanweir Battlements. And that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana left over. What we could still do is put a mana into Scroll Rack to put this on top. Then cast it with a Hasty Jeleva and copy it with Dualcaster Mage. Take control of both of our opponent's turns. That assumes that there's no counter magic over here, which there seems to be a lot of, unfortunately. Krenko coming straight back down. They've only got 2 cards left in hand, so they may not be able to do anything else this turn. We'll have to see. Krenko coming straight back down, along with the Illusionist's Braces. And that just copies the activated ability of a creature when activated. Alright, so let's get down Hanweir Battlements before I misplay the island. Just want to put the Worst Fears on top because I want to see a bunch of new cards when we cast Jeleva. And we draw into a Strip Mine. Now let's go for our uncounterable commander thanks to the Cavern of Souls. So what did we get? We got the Dig Through Time, we got Limdul's Vault, Worst Fears, ooh, a Ruination, that's not nice. Glad to see the back of that. And there's a Windfall as well, which we might make use of. Probably not, though. Hanweir Battlements onto our commander. And then we've still got mana held up for Riptide Laboratory and Dualcaster Mage. But it looks like Mooney has something in store for us. A Beast Within, which we can't counter, unfortunately. Ugh, this has been a really rough game. So do we just want to put Jeleva back into our hand, or do we want the Beast? We would have been able to go for Mystic Confluence had it not have been for the Ancient Tomb getting blown up. We can hold up Fact or Fiction and Dualcaster Mage. We can't go for Bedevil. Yeah, we'll just have to let that be, unfortunately. I don't think we're destined to win this one. Now a World Breaker's coming in. Now a World Breaker coming in from the Simic player. And they get to destroy an artifact or enchantment with that. They go after, going after our lands. I mean, why not? There's been Stax in this game, might as well blow up lands as well. Actually couldn't see what they were aiming that at there. I would have gone for Fact or Fiction in response, but the stack was over our land, or the specific land that they were targeting. It's funny, Magic Online, it doesn't always show you what things are targeting, and you have to pass through a step or so in order to see what's actually happening. That's especially true when people are attacking. Anyway, everything's coming in at us. We could have gone Dualcaster Mage to block this, but that does not have trample. So that's 5. Yeah, we're done here, so we'll just take it. I think we've done alright considering that we had to tangle with a Blood Moon and then we had Stax to deal with. But this is just going to be another one of those decks that we don't have much luck in getting good games with, I think. Then the team of Sabertooth bounced the Worldbreaker back to hand, and then they recast it, and let's see what they aimed that at. Oh, they went after the Mana Crypt, I think. They went for the Illusionist's Braces, and then they're going for the same thing again, or at least they bounced the Worldbreaker and they're going to recast it. And this time going after the Sack Outlet in Goblin Bombardment, so hopefully they can draw the game to a close fairly quickly with the Goblin player only being at 16 life. Playing out the Goblin Assassin again. And they're going to see if they can clear out some creatures. Then in response, activating Krenko to make even more Goblin Assassin triggers. They did have to sacrifice a creature. Sack their Goblin token, which triggered the Outpost Siege. Our opponent had to sacrifice a Worldbreaker to the second trigger. And no one sacrificed to the last one, so very lucky for the Simic player's point of view there. Eternal Witness has come down now, grabbing back the Beast Within, and they have activated the Worldbreaker trigger, so they've got that back in hand. Then Worldbreaker came down and got rid of Outpost Siege, and surely it's just a matter of time before the Simic player takes the game now, swinging in for 10 points of damage. Followed by Beast Within onto Krenko, and that ought to do it. Just playing out a Dragon Fodder. I don't even know if they can afford their Krenko, but they might be lucky with the Goblin Assassin, although they can choose what to sacrifice. The Goblin player being forced to sacrifice a Beast token and a Goblin. Worldbreaker being sacrificed here, and now they're bouncing the Eternal Witness back at the end of the turn. Oh, and they can play it at instant speed, so going for Leyline again. Yeah, hopefully this turn will do it. Could do with some trample in play. They are aiming Eternal Witness at the Lightning Greaves, so going for Worldbreaker with haste, I dare say. Field of the Dead coming down now, that's a good way to go wide on your opponent. Followed by the Lightning Greaves that we saw our opponent just retrieve. And star of the show, by the way, Leyline of Anticipation. That has been the best card this game, I think. And probably only stuck in play because our opponent was against a mono red player, a Grixis, and a mono blue player. Not colours that are likely to get rid of enchantments. World Gorger coming down again with Haste and Shroud. And Krenko deciding to block with everything, so just about keeping his head above the water. I think he'll go down to 2 here. Yep, taking 4 from the Beast. Krenko coming out, and that's the end. All Mooney should be doing here is turning everything sideways and going wide. Yeah, and a big shout out to J. Russell Anderson, seems like a cool guy. Internet random that we've never played with before, to my knowledge anyway. And yeah, seems like a classy individual, so just going to take the last points of damage, I hope. Should be going straight through to the combat step here and just turning everything sideways. And there we go, yeah, just turning everything sideways and finally finishing the game off. Yeah, apologies to anyone who wanted to see a decent Jeleva game. I think the first one somehow was actually better than this one, even though I was making mistakes left, right and centre in that game. I think we will have to try for a third and final time on that deck, but it won't be anytime soon. I'll be playing other decks. Probably just leave it a few weeks and then come back to this one. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe if you did like it, and I hope to see you all on the next video. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.